Today, my conversation is held with Will Raymond, or Video Will. He is he's a great obstacle racer. He's an even better videographer, and we have a great conversation that I honestly I just invited him on because I like him. He's a nice guy. I've seen him out on course over the past few years, and now that things are up and rolling again, I saw some of his footage from one of my favorite races in Dallas, Texas, and I thought I'd reach out to him. And our conversation really took some unplanned turns about the passion of capturing video and people in their prime competitive states. And I just really had a great time talking to him. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with my friend Will Raymond.
Hey,
What's happening, man?
how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Do I need to change my shirt since we're both wearing blue t-shirts?
No, I don't think so. I don't think we need to.
Let's see if I can change my cameras here. There we go. I have a better
Hey,
camera up there. So
I was about to say, like, do I have a better camera than the audiovisual expert here? But now I don't. I can see by the depth that is. It's like, what do you even call that? Whatever. It's like in portrait mode, so you look great, and I look like
yeah. It's
forehead.
yeah, it's depth. It's you call it yeah, I guess it's just depth of field, but
Okay.
it's a shallow depth of field that throws the background out of focus. So it's just depends on. I have it on a gimbal head here, so
A loose gimbal. I was kind of tooling around with different camera angles in recording the show here, and I'm like, it looks kind of cool in like a slight profile. Like, is your screen? Are you looking at me like off to the side a little bit?
Yeah, you're just off to the side.
Got it. Okay. And I was like, maybe I'll just not. I've done a few interviews where it's a little off to the side, and then just because it's, I don't know, profile's interesting, I guess, or a little bit of quasi profile.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be better for me to look into the lens or to like look at you the whole time.
Well, that's why I wanted to talk to you, because one of the
I just don't like I don't like this. So if I put you like I have 3 screens, so I can put you here and I can put you here, but
Yeah.
I think the lighting is better this direction. I have a little bit of fill from my windows, and I have one kind of LED key source up here.
These guys, this is the jam right here.
Yeah, it's these are Litra.
Okay.
So, but these guys are awesome because they're magnetic. So when you're outside, you can stick it to a light pole, and it's waterproof, so you can just throw it underwater. But then I've got these soft boxes that that I mount on an arm right up here above my, so it acts like a little studio box. So
yeah,
and
you
then
got all the cool toys.
And then they're color changing. You can set it to daylight all the way down to tungsten. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Heck yeah.
I have access to toys because I work for a corporation, and because we're not in the office full time, I have a lot of tools at home that are just at my I'm able to use them.
So during, I don't really. I have an agenda that I want to, like. I don't. It's a very loose agenda. I want to talk to you to catch up, because you and I have known each other for a little while. We see each other out on course. You're in Central Texas, is that right?
Yeah, I'm in North Central Texas. Dallas-Fort Worth is about an hour to hour and a half from Oklahoma City. So when you talk about Central Texas, most people are talking about Austin to San Antonio a little bit, but Central Texas is normally Austin, and that's about 3 hours south of here.
Okay, gotcha. So a couple years back, we're on the OCR course, and I see this like super nice guy racing, and then he's got these like really jacked out, awesome camera angle gear rigs. Forgive me if my vernacular is terrible. And I'm like, oh, what's this guy's story? He's here with a mission. And he's like, hey, what's up? I'm Video Will. Actually, you did not say I'm Video Will, but you're like, I'm Will. But if you're looking for him on the gram, you're going to find him under Video Will. And I'm like, what are you doing? And you said, what were you doing?
Yeah, I used to shoot for Obstacle Racing Media. And so I did that for about 3 years. That was my first foray into getting my video stuff in front of the OCR audience. And so he'd get me into races, and I would shoot races and make highlight videos and interview athletes and just try to make fun and compelling content. And so I used to have I still have it somewhere, a little GoPro gimbal rig, and off the gimbal handle, I would have these arms, and one would have a second, one would have a light, one would have a microphone, one would have a battery, and then there was a second camera hanging down. I mean, it looked like a big old spider.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, what in the heck is that thing?
Like the gun from Fifth Element, a little bit.
Yeah,
like
yeah. It was
had
just,
a little bit
it was just nuts looking, but it was balanced. It was awesome to run with. I mean, it was a lot lighter than the big rig that I run with now, because I use a big camera. But but that was kind of how I got my first running video shots, if you will, and kind of started to make my name in the industry as a guy who runs, a video guy who runs with people while they're doing obstacle racing. So I found just that little bit of a niche where, and we can get into it at some point, but it was like I had to make a decision when Matt called me and said, hey, will you shoot for me? You're already kind of doing this, for your own Instagram. I just want first cut of your videos, and I'll get you into everything for free and pay your expenses. And so I had to decide, like, okay, at this point, I'm not going to be racing competitively. If I'm going to be shooting the competitive racers and giving him pictures and video. And so I had to sort of decide, and I decided to double down on the video and not pursue the Masters podium anymore, that I was going after. Because I was, 40, 41, when I was kind of breaking into OCR, and I was chasing down, Michael Mark and Morris Brissett and guys in our age group. And, I made a couple top 10s in Masters, but then that next year they changed it to age group podiums. And so it was about the same time I had decided to double down on go all in with video and not pursue competitive, racing. And I was like, well, the money's gone anyway. So, I was only chasing a few $100s from a potential Masters podium, but I knew I probably wouldn't ever get to where I could win an overall, but Masters seemed like it was in my sights potentially. So
yeah. Do you ever regret the decision that you made to go basically pursue business instead of the podium?
I actually don't. I actually found that I really have a passion for what I'm doing now, and I was able to turn that passion into a side hustle where I'm actually just did my second paid gig with Spartan, where they hired me to be their videographer. And so it's kind of like, a little dream come true for me, because I didn't know if I would ever be able to turn it into something where I could be making some money, doing something on the side that I really liked. And when I freelance, I'm a video professional by day. I have a staff job, but I've always freelanced and done event production and live streaming and churches, sporting events, special events, corporate, things. Anyway, so I have always made a little bit of money as a freelancer outside my day job. I just didn't know if I'd ever be able to do that with obstacle racing, because my first Spartan race was in 2012, and you know, I had been shooting with GoPros and stuff all the way back that far, and I knew that I liked it, and I kind of just always did it for fun. But it's really cool here, you know, 10 years later to actually be starting to make some money at it. So, yeah.
And so you were shooting in Texas. Well, I'm sorry, in Jerry's World in Dallas last weekend. One of my favorite venues. I haven't been to in 4 years now. That's amazing to realize it's been that long.
I missed your pink shorts there this year.
Oh man, I miss seeing everybody and just getting out there and grinding. I'm on a different path for now, but I'll come back.
Yeah.
So, and this weekend was your first. I mean, it was. I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said it was the first time you'd been hired by Spartan. Well, probably not a big organization. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that question. Was this weekend the first time you'd been hired by a large obstacle course racing entity to work for them?
Yeah, Spartan hired me first to shoot the inaugural DecaFit event here in Dallas back in April. So that was the first time that I was hired directly by Spartan. And then, you know, I've been keeping in touch with them, and then they hired me for the stadium race that was here on June 19th. And it actually goes back a lot further than that because of my relationship with Yancey Culp, knowing him through the years, he put my name in the hat when we were originally going to launch DecaFit back March of 2020, which, if you remember, was timely because
it didn't happen. Didn't happen. I know. I just shut my business down for a few months, and literally March 15th.
So we were literally 8 to 10 days away from launching DecaFit Denver, and myself and one of my freelance business partners, we were going to be coming in to live stream it. So we had been hired by Spartan to come in with, you know, a half dozen 6-8 cameras, and we were going to do a live switch to live stream the first DecaFit, and if all went well, then we were going to be doing those monthly for, you know, the rest of that year. And so we were competing against a Denver company that, you know, was more expensive than us, and Yancey really pulled some strings and got me in the door. And I was going to kind of do the same thing, which is I was going to be boots on the ground, running around with a gimbal, live streaming my camera back to my partner who was going to do the live switching, you know, at a control panel. And so we were probably a day away from getting our deposit and booking our airfare, and everything just went away. Or it got, you know, at first it got
couple
delayed,
weeks,
rescheduled,
delay,
again and again, and then so and then, you know, obviously Yancey and Deca went a different direction, and they ended up doing all of their gym affiliates and were able to launch the brand a different way. But when DecaFit came back around as a big event, again, I was able to get my name in the hat, and they just hired me as sort of the videographer. And so I, you know, ran around and just was able to kind of show what I could do as in more of an endurance athlete, because that ends up being more of an endurance event where you're sprinting for here and there to get a shot of, you know, the person winning the race or the person coming around on their final lap. You're trying to get that steady cam looking, drone looking, moving shot while they're running. And so there's bits of that, and then the rest of it's just moving around, you know, the event space from here to there. And I mean, when I was at the stadium, my Garmin said I tracked, you know, 18 to 20 miles from shooting video all day. So that's what I train for. You know, I train for the endurance of that and holding a 15-pound camera rig and running with it, you know. So it's very specific. People see me in the neighborhood running around carrying weights and sometimes carrying the actual camera rig itself. And I get looks and questions and like, what are you doing? And I just say, I shoot running events for a living. I need to practice and train, and they seem to understand when they kind of get like, this is what I do. So, but yeah.
So there's a couple avenues I want to explore on what you just opened up, but so you're running, and for everybody who's watching and listening, Will has an incredible just talent for capturing athletes and the madness that they put themselves through, be it Spartan, Deca, or Tough Mudder, or whatever else. Like he captures people in the raw element of their competitive self, and it's hard to capture that, and Will does an amazing job of that. But one thing I would love to see sometime is maybe one of your colleagues. I didn't know you trained like that, like running with a weight up. I mean, it makes complete sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of your most recent posts, you showed, I don't remember the athlete's name, but it's like, who trains like this? And there's a guy shimmying under a bridge via his hands, and then there was you doing the same thing, and then he did something. He kind of pinched across a sign, and you did something similar also. I want to see how because there's lots of, like, everybody's a camera person now. Like, we've all got, granted, the iPhones are not that heavy, but we've all got, I mean, I've got just all this stuff around here from COVID. And I broadcast at more than the average bear, but like, I want to see what you look like when you're training. I think like turning the lens would be a very interesting thing to see how you train. And I think it's pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
The other comment, well, it was a question based on the last segment of the conversation. What is Deca Fit?
Sure. Most people have heard of Hyrox, and Hyrox and Deca are in the same vein, I would say. Deca was the brand that Spartan launched this last year, and it is a fitness standard competition for all fitness types, and it's a 5K distance with 10 exercise stations. And so while Hyrox is a 10K, Spartan is half the distance. So in a Deca Fit event, you're running a 500-meter loop, and then you're doing a workout station, and then you're running a 500-meter loop, you're doing a second workout station. You basically repeat that through 10 workout stations, and then your finish line, you're essentially at a 5K, and have done these 10 movements, which work all the different muscle groups in your body. It's meant to really prove and help us with our innate functional fitness and our ability to be healthy with life and everything. So it's really meant to, in the way that Spartan has always been, to, with the mission to rip people off the couch. Deca Fit is really in that same vein, as it's made for people of all fitness levels, and anybody can really come out. You can walk the run portions. You can get through the workout stations mostly. Yancey says that 99.5% of people that start the race get their Deca mark. And the neat thing is that you can then use that as a benchmark, because Deca is standardized. And so every time you come out to do a Deca Fit event, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be the same workout stations, the same durations of running. Even if it's in a different venue, that within a margin of error, you're going to be getting the same experience. And so you truly can come in and go, wow, I competed and I was able to beat my time by X 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's not like a stadium race where every stadium's different. And yes, they've standardized the Spartans to now they're loosely a 5K or loosely a 10K. but there's always going to be nuances that are different. And in DECA, it is standardized to where DECA Fit is a 5K, DECA Mile is a mile broken up into 10 running. I think he said it's like 160 meters or something per run instead of 500 meters. And then there's DECA Strong, which is the same 10 workout stations, but without the running. So
Got it.
Like at the stadium this year, they had a DECA Strong competition in the middle of the field, right in the middle of the Spartan thing. You were able to go up, sign up, and and compete for a DECA Strong time. And they just did it right there on the field. They had the 10 workout stations. So
this sounds like they're gunning for Turf Games is an English brand. And what is it? What did I do? Epic series. There's like an epic field and an epic heavy, or what is it called? Elite. There we go. Where it's 10 events, you just go. And you start with you pulling a truck, and then you go right to 135 ground to standing. Blah, 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 blah. That's pretty cool.
So it is meant to be straight through. Yeah,
So you've got like 10 stations, and I'm just trying to paint a picture here. There's, I've seen some of the footage, and I'm like, wow, that looks a lot like the stuff that I just mentioned, and it's awesome. But I have a baby now, so how am I gonna get away? Can you what's up? Go.
So what they did was they did DECA activations within gyms in cities all across the country. So Yancey and you're gonna have to cut this.
I'm not cutting anything.
No,
I'm just kidding. Someone whose
Yancey.
name you should obviously
Yancey's partner name. They've been going around the country working with gym affiliations and bringing people under the brand. And so you can look up on deca.fit and look up in your area if there's a gym that has an affiliation, and then what days that they're doing the competitions. And so a gym might do 1 or 2 a year, but in essence, I think Yancey said that this last event, that the one he was doing on the field at the Spartan was his 141st DECA activation, in the last year. So
what is activation? What does that mean?
So it's like a competition, but they're basically activating the DECA brand within a gym, within a brick and mortar gym.
Got it. Okay.
And he doesn't have to necessarily be there because they've trained the gym owners. They know how to set up the stations. They know how to standardize it, and they get 160, 80, 100, 120 people per activation. That maybe the activation is kind of the brand as an overall. It's been activated within that gym, and so the gym is now an affiliate of DECA and can schedule to put on events at certain times. And so there may be a competition in your area, in the next 6 weeks, and you can go and get your DECA Strong. Sometimes they have a kind of a trifecta weekend like Spartan does, where they'll have I guess the trifecta weekends are specific DECA Fit competitions. So if it's a DECA Fit, then that's a full blown out event and in a stadium, kind of like when we did it here in Dallas, it was at the automobile building down in Fair Park. And so they took just a raw event space and put up barricades for a 500-meter track, and then all the workout stations were on the inside of the 500-meter track.
Okay, that was my next question. How they set up the set that up. So so how do you prevent? I assume that people go in waves of 15 or 20 or something like that, and there's 20. What are some of the events that you would be doing in a DECA?
Yeah, so I'd have to pull up the website to have it in front of me to remember exactly. But the first one is they use the Spartan Ram, and so the first one would be like 30 weighted lunges with a 35-pound 50-pound ram. There's different weights for men and women.
Yeah, I remember that thing. It's awful.
Yeah, so you do 35 lunges with the ram, run your loop, and the second one.
Why is it an odd number? Is that 35 each side?
Sorry, 30. No, it would say it's 30. I was thinking it's a 35-pound ram, but it's
sorry. Okay, I didn't know.
30 reps. 30 reps. One is one. So left is one, right is two, left is three.
Got it.
And then you do a lap, and you come around to station 2, and that might be the rower, if I remember correctly. So you're doing 500 meters on a rower. And so what happens is they have volunteers there that, for the elites, it was one volunteer per person. So as the elite went around, their volunteer moved stations with them. So the volunteer.
So I'd be sticking with you if I was racing. Or
you would be judging me and making sure I followed the rules and whatnot. And so
I could essentially, slide you a 20.
You at least knew, in each lap you had to match up your
guy,
your volunteers 1-to-1 to the competitors. So, but with open, you could probably get away with less. And I don't remember how they did that. I think they probably had volunteers that stayed with the station for the open waves.
So you got these athletes that they're launching. I mean, how long is it? It probably takes 15 minutes for the elites to finish. 20 minutes.
The elites were a 30-minute race.
30-minute race.
I think the fastest time right now is somewhere around 27, 28 minutes. I have to check the standard.
And now how do you, so is the course just packed for those 30 minutes? Because obviously old school Spartan is, Stadion or anything else trail is, it's an A to B. Kind of, it's a loop. But so there's not really bottlenecking if you're moving, but if you've got people running around the same track, how do you prevent that from happening?
I don't know. I think they spaced it out well enough that I don't remember that ever being an issue.
Okay.
You have people running at different speeds, and with people getting through each station at 1.5 to 2 minutes or less per station. Not everybody was on the running course at the same time in the same spot, and I don't remember there ever being an issue of having to get stuck behind somebody that was slow, or the only time there was really an issue was starting a heat, kind of like as race cars enter a racetrack.
That's what I was going to ask.
Traffic that's already there.
That's kind of what I was seeing happen. You've got like.
So there was a bit of a parallel where the people entering were merging in with people that were there, and then they merged, and there was enough. It wasn't on top of each other. It was 50 feet of, I'm running next to you now. I'm going to get in your lane, but yeah, it wasn't an issue. They had it pretty well managed. I think the DECA Fit event that I did in Dallas had about 500 competitors total throughout the day.
Great.
And that's a combination of both the elite runners and the open runners. So
okay. And what was the elite field like? I mean, I see some of my old friends from familiar faces basically. They're like DECA, and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah. DECA comes from 10.
Right.
Like a decathlon, and it was a stacked heat both for men and for women. The race was not a blowout on either side. I have videos on my Instagram that show both competitions, that it definitely came down to the wire. And their last station, ironically, much like the stadium race I just shot, the last obstacle right before the end are ram burpees, weighted burpees with a 55-pound ram.
Fantastic.
So you're doing 15 weighted burpees where you have to clear the ram above your head and then go down to a burpee and come back up. And that's, immediately before you cross the finish line. And love it. It in both races, it got to be kind of a make or break. And even at this stadium race I shot, I'm literally editing a video right here where Forrest Bogue came in 4th place, and he went faster than almost everybody there. He got to 3rd place, and he was 5 seconds from catching up to Victor, who got 2nd. So in that one obstacle, he was able to pass Robert Killian and almost caught up to Victor Quezada, who was in second place. So it was depending on if you train for that or not, it could be a make or break moment. So it's pretty cool to watch that live. And that's kind of where I found with this videography stuff to kind of come full circle. Being able to bring those kind of moments to everybody where, most people are standing there on the sideline shooting with an iPhone or something. And what I'm able to do is really show something that's really cool and immersive and cinematic, with the type of camera and the lensing and I've been really practicing to not shoot flat and wide and really try to get in closer and get in real,
shows the
catch the
personal
emotions
side.
and sweat and stuff from the athletes. And just to be there in that moment and to capture that, it's very fulfilling to me to do that and know that I'm able to then, share that with an audience that wouldn't normally get to see it, and hopefully inspire people to, come out and try it themselves, even though they're watching these, as the ANSI says, these cyborg, athletes that are performing at a level that most of us will never ever be able to perform. At the same time, these events are open to people of all fitness types and sizes and levels, and the same thing that someone can run in 30 minutes, you can come out and do in 2 hours and really get a fulfilling experience and feel like you accomplished something, because for you 2 hours was the best you can do. 2 hours was pushing you outside of your comfort zone. And then next you can come back and do it in an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes and know that, you dedicated yourself to this, you were fulfilled by it, and it made you want to do it again, even though it was probably the hardest thing you'd ever done in your life, So to be able to sort of tell those stories and hopefully, inspire other people to try it. And, it's fulfilling work for me, for sure.
You had one gentleman in particular that you spent some time with in Dallas, and he was an older gentleman. And this is one thing that really stood out to me. This was why I reached out, actually, because I'd never seen you shoot something like that before, or a subject like that. And do you know who I'm talking about? He looked like he was in his late 80s, and he was taking the stairs on. He was having trouble, but I mean, for anyone who's been to Dallas, been to any stadium for that matter, to be even have gray hairs on your head and take those stairs on like that guy was. What can you tell me a little bit about that gentleman? And
I didn't get a chance to talk to him because I shot his spear throw, and I saw him again on the stairs a little bit later. I was kind of traversing back and forth through the stadium, and so I would run ahead and shoot some people and then do this obstacle and then come back around. So I was often passing the same people again. And so in this case, I just happened to see the same guy multiple times. And it was very compelling to watch him, because he was into it. And I think when we looked him up online or through Athlinks, I think it said he was 71. But it was not easy for him to do those stairs. And I think someone told me it was probably about 2,000 feet of elevation, going through the stadium race this year. I didn't look to see if there were many other people in his age group and how he did, but it's so inspiring to see somebody like that just take on that kind of challenge and do it at their own pace, and just recognize that obviously couldn't have been easy. And I know it's not easy for the majority of people, but there's so many people out there in their 60s, and it's more infrequent you see people in their 70s, but when you do, it's pretty cool. And it's definitely something, that's why I shared that video, because I felt like people needed to see that there's really no excuse. If people are using their excuse, that's not an excuse. Because I mean, when people get in their 40s, they're going, "Oh, I'm getting old. I'm getting," and I'm 45, and I'm keeping up with people 20 years younger than me. I train with people in their 20s and in their 30s, and I have coworkers who, are millennials, and they go, "You're, 3 years younger than my dad, and my dad can't even get him off the couch to go take the trash outside. He's, he's on all these medications, and he's lethargic, and he has all these, physical problems and ailments, and he's in the doctor all the time." And I'm like, and he's like, "And you're out doing, 300 burpees and running 6 miles at the same time." And he's like, I don't comprehend how you're 3 years younger than my dad, who is, basically a potato. And I just can't imagine living that lifestyle. And so I think part of my why and my passion, behind documenting and my training to a certain extent, not to the extent that you're providing, teaching people how to move, and you're teaching people how to be active, and showing them exactly ways to correct their muscles and their posture and their all those things that are keeping people from being comfortable being active. I'm not training people, but I'm showing what's possible, I think, for somebody that's just kind of a normal person. And for me, like when I started climbing under bridges and doing urban obstacles, I was like, my buddy that did it, I was like, "You're crazy. I'm never gonna climb across. I'm never gonna traverse that bridge and go over that river or cross that ravine." And now I do it multiple times a week, because it's kind of like once you get used to a concept that seems so foreign or seems so unheard of, and you can see that as normal, and you can see that as part of your routine, it opens up like a whole new world of possibilities. And so that's kind of the angle that I come from documenting just things in training, and then also getting out and showing people doing amazing things at these races. I love to be able to share those stories of other people doing amazing things, because to me, that's how people are going to connect with. You never know what's going to kind of connect with somebody, where they're going to see themselves in somebody else, or see themselves in somebody else's experience, or, "Oh, that person looks like me," or "That person has a background like me," or, whatever it is. I just think we need more of that. And to the extent that I can provide, that on a small scale through social media or through people that I know personally, it's very rewarding for me to be able to do that, outside of my day job. So
yeah. And this, I mean, you got the emotion coming up out of me now, and like you just reminded me that this is a hobby for you, to get to not only, I mean, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, I guess a video is worth 1,000,000. And if you're able to document, a period in time that are, I mean, it's been a while for me now since I've been in my peak condition, probably like 4 or 5 years. But to see, like, to have someone see where they were, or have that documented, I guess is what I'll just rest upon, and know that either you can get back to it, or that you have that memory, and because of people like yourself, actually you're the only guy that I know that does this so well. You have that crystal clear encapsulated in time, basically. And it's a really magical thing that you're able to provide. How did you get into this? How did you start with, what were you doing when you picked up a camera and you're like, Polaroid, go, and then it moved up?
Yeah. No, I mean, I just got a GoPro at some point. I've always been a runner, and I think I started obstacle racing with like Jailbreak and Warrior
What is that?
Dash back in
Oh,
2010.
Jailbreak is a franchise that I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, Run the Jailbreak. They might be more local. They're kind of like
Okay.
like a Warrior Dash style race, 5K with some inflatable and wooden obstacles and things.
Yeah.
And then so 2010, 2011, like I said earlier, I did my first Spartan. It was a beast here in Dallas in October of 2012. That was my first Spartan. Then we had our daughter in 2013. And I'm trying to think. So in that year, I stepped away from racing entirely, and I became immersed in like being a dad and trying to be a good husband. And my wife, struggled with postpartum depression, and we didn't understand it, and we were home just trying to buckle down and figure out this parenting thing. But I was 210 pounds after my daughter was born, and that most of that year after until Father's Day, I was really overweight. My wife hadn't lost her baby weight as fast as she wanted, and so she bought us both Fitbit trackers for Father's Day for that year.
Yeah.
I don't know, that was July. When's Father's Day? It would have been the next year, so it would have been 2014. And so I immediately, lost like 20 pounds. And I'd always thought 180, 185 is kind of my fighting weight. When I was in the summer and I was fit, I was 185. And in the winter, I was 195. But I'd never been, like 210. And so I was able to get back down into sort of where I felt good. But then I decided I'm just going to continue to be consistent. And so from there on, I'm using MyFitnessPal, I'm using Runkeeper, and ultimately I got on to where I was using Strava. And so I was really able to track my fitness over time, started signing up to races more consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found that, I loved going out and competing, but then it was always cool to just grab a camera and go doing another lap, run with friends later in the day, and document. Yeah. And so I was always making these race videos of just, us just going out, having fun and sharing the experience together. And that's kind of just how I started doing it, was just for fun. And I've been in video production since, I studied it in college. I graduated in '97. I kind of have an engineering background. I used to design and build production facilities. So I'm kind of a systems AV guy, and that's where I fell into doing event production. And so I'm the guy who would come in and be the engineer in charge of a large corporate video production where we have multiple cameras and you've got lighting and rigging and sound and I'm handling all the vendors and making sure everybody's in the right place, and to the extent that I'm hooking up the cameras and making sure everything is set up, that's kind of where my background is. So for me, grabbing a GoPro to go shoot a race was kind of just like kids play,
Yeah.
But it was fun for me because I wasn't always the guy shooting events. I was the guy, kind of puppet strings with making sure the camera people are in place and the audio guys in place. And, I was just the guy in charge of all the vendors, and I understood the technology and how it went together, but I was never kind of the guy behind the lens, And so that was where it was really fun for me here, almost 20 years after college, and I'm getting to like play with the camera again and actually be the guy shooting stuff. And I used to edit stuff in college, so I kind of fell back into like editing my own race videos and just kind of learning the new tools and tricks within Final Cut Pro and then Adobe Premiere, and since I work with these people day in and day out, I could just ping my buddy and like, hey, this graphics tool is not working right. How do I get this to such and such? And then I get pro tips from people just because I have them in my back pocket. So
yeah.
It all kind of came together for me. And I'm still not like a motion graphics guy. I still, you know, hire people out if I want to create like a motion graphics logo or something like that. But for the most part, you know, I can come in and I can help someone outside my day job with corporate video production all the way through to, you know, live streaming to just like I shot a 100-mile race last year and I made a documentary of it down in Houston with the guys out of Grit Fitness. Their first Grit Ultra event I shot into and made into a 30-minute documentary. And so that was running basically 24 hours straight. I ran 32 miles shooting that race.
32 miles?
Yeah, I ran 8 4-mile loops basically to get footage of people running the race. So yeah, it was a.
Sorry, go ahead. Well, I was going to ask a question, but I didn't realize you were done. It's the Zoom curse of like, and there's a little delay. What I was going to ask, did you have like a pit for that, or did you have like part of your crew? Because 32 miles is no feat, especially with 15 to 20 pounds of gear.
Yeah, they do a great job with that event. They have a great pit area. They provide a certain amount of food and supplies just overall for the racers. But most of the people racing, whether they're on a team or whether they're running the whole 100 miles themselves, you know, they come with a support crew. And so just like in a Tough Mudder or something, there's people there that when you come into pit, their format is a lot like, you know, Big's Backyard and these other ones that you're running 4.16 miles every hour. So on the hour you start and do a loop. And so if you run it fast and you get back fast, you can sit for 20 minutes, 30 minutes and rest. And then top of the hour, you run it again. And so if you run it 24 times in a row, you're at 100 miles. And that's how they get to their 100-mile distance.
Got it.
But a lot of these races do it and it's a last man standing. Like they'll just go for days at a time. And so these people are running, you know, an average of 9, 10, 11-minute miles. So they can come in at 45 minutes. They'll do a 4.16 mile loop and come in at 45 to 50 minutes. And they'll have 10 to 15 minutes to rest and then do it again. As long as they can kind of keep up that cadence of you know, not pushing themselves to red line. You know, they stave off, you know, cramps and muscle issues and things by spending that 10 minutes with the Theragun or whatever else and getting nutrition. For me, I just winged it, dude. I really didn't come with a plan. I didn't expect to run 30 miles. But
sounds like me in every one of my races.
I just kind of figured out like, oh, I guess I'm capable of this. And actually, during COVID, me and my buddies, we did a 50-miler just here. And this we had these shirts made. Yeah. But this is that track you see at the bottom goes from Fort Worth on the other side, goes from Fort Worth to Dallas. And so we basically ran the Fort Worth to Dallas Trinity River in a day.
How did that?
We planned the route ourselves, and we planned pit stops every 12 to 13 miles. And it was just, there's no races, so you know, let's just do it ourselves. And so that was my first ultra experience was running that with 3 other guys. So
what's your pace like on that?
Probably
I mean, you're stopping every half marathon. So you got 3 stops over a 7-8 hour period.
Yeah. So it ended up being 54 miles total. We would pit every 12 to 13. I think we started at a 9.5 minute pace. And probably averaging around there 10 minutes a mile. And so I think towards the end where we were doing a lot of walk, run to finish this thing out, you know, I think our average pacing towards the end was closer to like 13 to 14 minutes a mile average, which was inclusive of
completely reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds completely
reasonable. But it was
reasonable.
Cool because we planned our own nutrition. Like we had a car at each pit stop. We were self-supported between the 4 of us. We had shoes if we needed. We actually had to cross the river because one of the bridges was out, and we'd planned a rope climb because we're all OCR guys. So we're like, okay, the bridge is out. We'll just put this rope here and climb up the rope and get onto the bridge and go across. And 2 guys made it, and the guy right before me couldn't make it up. And so we had to go find a spot to wade across the river. And so that was right about halfway through this whole thing. So we had wet shoes and we had to go. Luckily, we were pretty close to a pit stop, and we changed right after that. But it made for quite an adventure ultra.
That sounds a lot more productive than how most people spent their pandemic time, which was, you know, drinking or just tooling around on Instagram. Hey,
well, it was so good. We're doing it again. We did it last October, and we're planning to do it again here this December. So yeah.
No way. All right. Is it pretty chilly there in December? You guys get seasons like Tennessee does?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say it's not as cold as Tennessee. I think we probably stay about 15 to 20 degrees warmer than Tennessee, but
that sounds interesting. Well, you've got my I wanted to ask you 1 or 2 more questions before we jump off here. The first question is, do you still shoot with GoPro, or have you moved on to more professional, or how does that work?
Yeah, so when I shoot races and I'm in a controlled environment, I know I'm not going to be out in the elements, or you know, I'm in a facility. Then I use it's a Sony A7 III with Sony GM lenses. The lens that I use, I think, is a 24 to 70. So a 24 is just wide enough to where you can shoot, you know, runners and it doesn't look super fisheye. And then a 70 is, when you zoom in, you know, it's tight enough to where you can get more of that cinematic look. We talked about shallow depth of field. Mm-hmm. So for instance, like if I'm in a start line, I usually get 1 or 2 shots. Real stuff's in my car. I was going to show you. I use a monopod screwed on the bottom of my gimbal, so I can get a real high angle, and it almost looks like a drone or like a jib shot. And then I can be 10 feet away from the people at the start line, be zoomed in, and really capture their emotion through just a little bit of I'm catching their emotion through a little bit of motion on the gimbal, but it's zoomed in and it throws the background way out of focus, and it makes it look really cinematic. So it's kind of cool with one rig to really be able to get both the fast and furious, like running shots, and then with a quick zoom, and the autofocus is awesome on this camera. I can, you know, get some real tighter shots, especially if someone's like on a workout station. It works well it doesn't work well on a rower where they're going like this, going back and forth. So
rowers are tough without actually.
Yeah, it's like kind of coming in and out of focus. Yeah. But you know, if they're on the air bike and they're kind of doing this, you can really get in nice and tight and you know, get a cool shot. But I use GoPros when I run the field myself. So a typical shoot day for me would be, I spend 3 hours, like, okay, so I'll just go back to the stadium. I did 4 chunks during the day. I went out for about 3 hours in the morning, and I'm shooting the elite racers and the competitive racers. So I go to the start line, I get 3 or 4 waves of start line, and then I try to go down to the middle of the course, and I shoot people in the middle of the course. And then I start thinking about, okay, when are the elites going to be coming through to the finish? I try to time it out to where, in this case, we had a gauntlet of like 6 or 7 obstacles. And so I caught Ryan Kent, like as he was coming into the jerry can carry. And then after jerry can, then he's out on the field, and you've got the Herc hoist, the Atlas carry, the box jumps, the burpees, and then you're finished. So I could catch all that. And as soon as the finishers come through and I get the men, the women, do some interviews, do some competitive racers, then I'm basically just going out and trying to get as many cool shots with age group people over the next hour or 2, and I'm backtracking through the course to get shots that I didn't get obstacles that I wasn't able to get to for the elites.
Mm-hmm.
And then that after about 3 hours, you know, I come back, I get myself some nutrition because I got a plan for the day. So I use liquid IV. I usually get like a Fit Aid or something, whatever they have at the finish line. Bananas. I'm a big bagel on race day. Bananas, bagels, and I buy my protein bars at these are Kirkland. I buy these at Costco,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the best bang for the buck. It's like those I can't remember the other brand, but it's low in sugar, high in carb, low in net carbs, high in protein.
Brownie.
So this one's chocolate brownie.
Pull back a little bit. Pull back there, right there. Perfect. All right.
I like chocolate brownie, and I like the cookie
21
dough.
grams. All right.
So these, so it's 21 grams of protein, 10 grams of fiber. So your net carbs are 10 grams. But like this is easy on my stomach. I can eat these all day. Like when I was running my 50 miler, I had one like every hour. I just eat them while I'm running and kind of just chew slowly. And so I live and breathe by those. You can buy a pack. They're like 80 cents a bar or something, less than that maybe at Costco.
Nice. Okay.
So I have some nutrition, and then I'll go out and shoot the open racers through the morning, and I guess come back like noonish, and then go out and shoot another few hours of open racers. So I'm trying to like traverse the course in different order, get different varieties of people. Sometimes I'll camp out at an obstacle and try to get, you know, maybe 8-10 good shots of various people coming through, various ethnicities. And then after I'm done, and that's all shooting with the Sony A7 III. After that, then I come back and change, and I'm usually signed up for the last wave of the day, just as, you know, as an actual racer. I put on my timing chip. I usually wear a chest mount GoPro, a head mount GoPro. A lot of times I'll run with a handheld.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing you out there, just look like RoboCop, just going.
Yeah. So I'm getting POV shots of going through the obstacle itself. Mm-hmm. I'm sometimes walking up and putting like a mounted GoPro on the corner of the obstacle. Like if it's monkey bars, I'll put it where it can see me coming through the obstacle and maybe some other people, you know, around me that are going through. And then I'll just grab it real quick and keep running. And so, you know, so that I end up shooting.
So you're using your race to collect your cameras. That's awesome. And you've got this this armful of cameras by the time you're done.
Yeah. Yeah. Normally awesome. I'm wearing a hydration pack, and I can just clip my handheld camera just like to the pack, either there or there, and where it doesn't bounce around too much. But it's kind of neat with the chest mount. You know, you get that shot from kind of between your hands. So when you're reaching for stuff, the camera shot's here. Mm-hmm. And then the head worn is, you know, more of a top down POV, and it ends up being a little smoother because when you run, you have less vertical oscillation from your head. Your chest ends up moving a lot.
Chest goes side to side.
You don't realize it, how much your chest moves when you run. Running shots are not that great from a chest mount unless you have a gimbal head on it, which is not easy to do obstacles with.
one of the first, so I've got a couple cameras here, but one of the first GoPros that I had, I was like, I'll get a chesty, because running with my head on my head looks goofy. And I was like, this is going to be awesome. I was out in the, where was I? Like Nevada or something like that with some friends, running through the desert, beautiful colors and everything. And it's literally just side to side, just this garbage. Yeah, I'm like, I was so disappointed, but I didn't even see that coming.
There's hardly any stabilization on those old Hero 3s and whatnot.
Oh man,
I think my first one was a Hero 4.
I'm taking it Hero 2.
Hero 2.
Look at that. And then I moved up a little bit to Hero 3.
Yep.
And actually, I wanted to ask you if you'd played around with the Insta 360 at all.
Haven't yet.
So this guy right here, detachable battery pack. So you never have to run out, and then this is completely modular. So I've got the 360 lens here, which is like a Google Maps cam type thing.
Yeah.
But they've got interchangeable lenses also, which I was like, the minute my buddy got one,
Yeah.
I played around with it, and I saw the potential that it has, and I've been just kind of tooling around with it. But with the interchangeable, the ability to interchange lenses and battery, man, I think GoPro's in trouble.
Yeah.
There's a learning curve to it. It's not quite as easy to use as GoPro. That's the one setback, but
Yeah.
it's awesome. It is awesome. Mr. Will, before we get off, you know, as you know, the world owes us nothing, and we, as gentlemen, are obliged to do what we can with the time we're given. And so I'd like to wrap up with, I'll put in the notes where to find you and everything. What is it that you are giving to the world?
That is a very good question. I mean, I think the thing that we can all do that makes us unique is, you know, there's no other person that has your exact reach, your exact connections. And I've always found passion and fulfillment in connecting people and bringing people together. And I think for me, like today, for instance, Spartan edited the footage that I shot on Saturday, and they released a highlight reel, which they put out, and they're like, you know, whatever it said, we had a great event. Spartan is awesome. You guys got to come and do this kind of thing. And they, you know, they tagged Spartan and USAA as sponsors and did some hashtags around the brand and just put it on their channel. And, you know, it's the assumption we have 5 million people that like the page, that thousands are going to see it, but it's very us to them. And it's at no fault of their own, you know, it's kind of like they have a major platform to put stuff out there. But in my mind, when I release something like that, I want to identify who's in the video. I want to tag them so that people can go, oh, that's who that is. Oh, let me get to their page. Oh, that's very cool. They live here. Oh, they go to this gym. Oh, I didn't know there was a gym there. You know, you never know where that rabbit trail could go. And so for me, I spend the time to look up people's Spartan number and go, I have this really cool shot of this guy doing this obstacle. I have no idea who he is. That 71-year-old man walking through the stairs. You know, I don't know his name, but I can look up his number. I can find him on Athletes. I can figure out his name. I can look and see if he has a social media page, and then see if I can reach out to him to connect, to tag him. And who knows, maybe he'll be able to connect with someone locally, or someone will get inspired to talk to him. And so those types of things are what kind of like get me to go that extra mile on doing this kind of work, where it's like I just get a lot of fulfillment out of being able to connect people through these platforms, and hope that, you know, people can become better versions of themselves, you know, through some part of that. And so that's kind of what motivates me, and what keeps me going to just try to make a difference. I've always been kind of that person that helps connect people. I've got a big Rolodex. As I said, I'm crewing, you know, video production, producers, directors, people in the industry. So I'm always getting that call. Hey, I know you don't do this, but do you know someone that does? And I'm like, yeah, I've got, just the other day, I'm like, someone's like, hey, do you know a photographer in Houston? I was like, well, I haven't worked with one directly, but I would call this person and she would know the right person to call. So I've always got someone, and I'm helping people find people that have an expertise or maybe can help them in a certain area. And that's very fulfilling to me. So I don't know, maybe that's my little niche, but that's what kind of keeps me going and gets me to do that extra bit that other people just kind of might put something out there and it's great and people go, wow, that's awesome. But there's no there's no connections to who's in the video or how do I get more information. And so I'm always looking for what's the call to action, what gets people to click to the page that allows them to, you know, either buy the product or find the gym or, you know, make the difference. So, yeah, I guess that's marketing.
That's well, I think what you do is from the heart, and I think it's one of the reasons that you are so good at what you do, and it's one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on, because you're a great guy, and you're very talented. So thank you very much for taking the time to come and talk with me, and it has been real having you on the show, and I hope to see you very soon out on some course. I got to get back into it because you really got my gears turning now, man. So thank you so much, Will.
Awesome.
Do you want to give a quick shout out, like your personal website? I know we said your Instagram a few times. Like, where can people find you?
Yeah. So I'm Video Will, and everybody asked, like, is there dots or dashes? Or no, I got in early enough. I'm just Video Will on Instagram, Will Raymond on all the other platforms, from LinkedIn to Facebook to Twitter. And those are those. Yeah, I think Instagram is the place that I'm most active. I do have a YouTube page, so a lot of my long form stuff goes to YouTube. More family stuff and the bigger items go to Facebook, but the smaller, interstitial content, little interviews, everything kind of goes to Instagram, and some of the other stuff goes elsewhere. So you can send me a DM or connect with me on any of those places. And if you saw me at a race, like I said, I love to connect people. If you know I got a shot of you at a race, just reach out to me. I'm more than happy to send you the clip directly, so you can post it, on your social media or whatever.
Well, what's your YouTube, before we forget about that?
I think you could just look me up under my name.
Okay.
Will Raymond. The actual link is an old nickname of mine. My middle name is Chapin, and like Harry Chapin, and my buddy used to call me Chapio, or he still does actually. So my YouTube is CHAPE-YO, and I haven't been able to figure out how to actually change that link yet, but I've never actually typed that in a search for it. But I know if you go to like youtube.com/something and Chapio, but I think if you just search Will Raymond,
cool.
You'll find
That's great.
there, so. But the only other thing I wanted to mention was from a fitness and a men's fellowship perspective, I recently became involved with a group called F3, and the F3 stands for Fitness, Fellowship, and Faith. And so it's a men's fitness group. They use fitness as the lure to get people off the couch and get them out in the morning. We meet at 5:30 in the mornings, and there's F3 groups all over the country. I think there's 2,000 something locations now. If you go to F3 Nation, I mentioned it just because I wasn't a group fitness guy. I was never interested in going to Camp Gladiator or any of these places, but I had a buddy who, I saw it online. I said, you know what, that looks really interesting. I'm going to go check it out. And I've been back multiple times a week ever since then, and for like 3 months, and it's awesome, and it's free, and it's peer led, and they're in like 30 something states. So there's a good chance there's an F3 group near you. So if anybody's looking for something that is out of the norm and they don't want to spend a whole lot of money, this is a really good place to start. The fellowship is awesome, and it's been very positive for me. I didn't realize how much I really needed that male camaraderie in my life, and it got me to do some fitness stuff that I would not normally do. I think I'm a more well-rounded athlete because of it. So yeah, F3 Nation.
F3 Nation. Okay.
Highly recommend it.
I'll make sure to get him in the show notes here.
Thank you.
Will, thank you so much for your time. As always, you're an amazing person. Keep doing what you do, and thanks for spending time with us today.
Thanks, brother. My honor. Thank you for your time.